morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. My name is Dina McFeeters, and I'm honored to serve as Associate Minister and to welcome you to our online Sunday worship service today. At First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee, we welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all that you're bringing with you today and all that your heart longs to set down. During the COVID-19 public health emergency, First Church in-person activities have moved online. Summer worship services are at 9 a.m. only through Labor Day weekend. We offer all ages religious education every Sunday at 10 a.m. online, with pre-K and kindergarten at 11:30 a.m. Youth group will meet on September 6th at 4 p.m. Sign up for the Religious Education Weekly Update to learn more about ways to connect with our families, faith, and community. You can find that link in your live stream chat now. Join us for virtual coffee hour this morning after service, where we chat in small groups. You can find the meeting link in your live stream chat. Both visitors and members are welcome. Come to connect and reflect on Sundays this summer at 11 a.m. A facilitator will share a short reading, and then we'll reflect on questions in response. It's a come-as-you-are event. No preparation necessary. The link is in your live chat now. As usual, please join the ministers to connect and reflect on Thursday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. online, and join Reverend Jennifer at lunch with the senior minister on Monday from 12 to 12:30 p.m. on Facebook Live. I'm pleased to introduce our pulpit guest today, First Church member Amy Wilbourne, who is leading worship today on the topic, Extending the Bridge. Amy has been a member of First Church since 2011. She has served as a pastoral care associate, a worship associate on several committees, and attended Midwest Leadership School in 2018. She enjoys participating in small group ministries such as theme circles and geography of grace. Amy is a school counselor in the Milwaukee Public Schools and loves to spend her free time with her two sons, Preston and Neal, and her partner, Mark, and her two four-pod friends. Once again, I welcome you to our worship service this morning by inviting you to repeat our mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Let's hear the opening words from Amy.
Good morning. These opening words are by Gretchen Haley. Every little thing that breaks your heart is welcome here. We'll make a space for it, give it its due time and praise for the wanting it represents, the longing for something more, some healing hope that remains not yet. We promise no magic, no making it all better, but offer only this circle of trust, this human community that remembers, though imperfectly, that sings and prays, though sometimes awkwardly, this gathering that loves, though not yet enough. We're still practicing after all, still learning, still in need of help and partners, still becoming, able to receive all this beauty and all these gifts we each bring. Come, let us worship together. Now let's watch Reverend Jennifer light the chalice, our symbol of Unitarian Universalism. As we enter into a time of spoken meditation, followed by shared silence, followed by the singing of Spirit of Life, I invite you to find a way, wherever you are, to ground yourself. Perhaps you can put your feet on the floor, take a few breaths, do whatever you need to do to be present to the moment. The following is a blessing. If you are suffering from mental illness, our arms are around you. If you live with someone or care about someone who suffers from mental illness, our arms are around you. If you have ever felt like life isn't worth living, our arms are around you. If you have lost someone to suicide, our arms are around you. If you are recovering from addiction, our arms are around you. If you live with or care about someone who is recovering from addiction, our arms are around you. If you live with or care about someone who is struggling with addiction, our arms are around you. If you are questioning your drinking or substance use, our arms are around you. If you have been harmed by someone who suffers from mental illness or substance use, our arms are around you.
Good morning. My name is Dale Skaggs, and I'm happy to serve as worship associate for this morning's service. Many years ago, Linda and I traveled to Ireland. It was my first time there, and on our second day in the country, we drove the loop around the Dingle Peninsula out on the southwest coast. It's a beautiful landscape with green fields sloping to a precipitous drop from high cliffs down to the waves below. At some point, we pulled over to the verge, climbed a low stone wall, and walked out toward the cliffs to admire the view. As we turned back to the car, we heard someone calling and saw a man coming down a long lane from an old stone house above the road. As he hurried towards us, he was waving his cane over his head and shouting at us. It seemed like he might be angry because we had trespassed his fields, so we were prepared to plead forgiveness as jet-lagged foreign visitors, unfamiliar with local custom. But as it turned out, he only wanted to bid us welcome and offer invitation to explore as much as we liked. He even invited us to come up to his old house, which he told us he and his father had built from the stones in the fields many, many decades before. His name was Jimmy Whalen, 82 years old, and I've always remembered him kindly because looking back, I think his offering of connection probably changed my entire experience of that trip. Having received such warm welcome early in the visit, I looked for and saw similar invitation and welcome everywhere we went. Some years later, in one of my periodic episodes of acute depression, a different sort of invitation had an analogous effect by changing how I saw myself and my expectations for what I could experience. I was resistant to the whole idea of using antidepressant medication, convinced that I should be able to deal with my depression without it. A wise psychiatrist listened patiently to my objections to his prescription, then said, "I want to invite you to think about this differently. If you know someone who is diabetic, you don't find it appropriate that they use insulin every day, do you? And guess what? Just as their body fails to produce enough insulin, your body fails to produce enough serotonin. So why should you deny yourself the kind of help you take for granted for a diabetic?" Well, just as I was prepared for an argument with Jimmy Whalen, I was armed for an argument with that psychiatrist. And he had disarmed me just as deftly as Jimmy had. By offering an invitation to accept myself as I was, instead of as I thought I should be, he offered me a different picture of my future. My connection with Jimmy Whalen changed my subsequent experience of Ireland, and that doctor's invitation changed my connection to the rest of my own life. And that opened me to connection with others on a deeper and more genuine level than ever before. I often think that at our best, the invitation we offer each other here at First Church, at its simplest, is to come as you are, to be who you are, and to offer that authentic self in authentic connection. There is no doubt that the invitation and welcome I have received here brought me to a deep connection with First Church, which has been life-sustaining for me in more ways than I can count. For that, and for so much more, I am immensely grateful.
There are bridges in the sky, they are shining in the sun. They are stone and steel and wood and wire, they can change two things to one. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and art. understanding. They are better than a wall. They are languages and letters. They are poetry and all. They are love and understanding. They are better than a wall. There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, they are all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and so foreboding, they are oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and so foreboding, they are oh so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross it with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us right another wrong. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges, be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges, be off and on our way.
2 years ago, when I was in early recovery from alcohol use disorder, I was talking to my sister on the phone when she asked how I was doing. I said, well, this isn't exactly a casserole illness. She asked me what I meant, and I explained that when people are recovering from serious illness, people usually offer meals, send cards of encouragement, and check on your general well-being. I held the belief at the time that my recovery was supposed to happen in private, and that the help I should seek was to be anonymous. My early journey decimated some friendships and was shrouded in shame and isolation. Around that same time, a childhood friend of mine was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It was benign, but it was concerning because it was sitting on an eye nerve that would require very intricate surgery to have it removed. While she lived cross-country, I was able to follow her journey on the Caring Bridge website, which is created to connect people to their friends and loved ones going through serious illness or major surgery. People left her messages of well wishes. They offered to make meals. She shared her journey there and expressed gratitude for the outpouring of support she received. It was beautiful. I began to ask myself how my recovery from alcohol use disorder might have been different had I been offered the same sort of support the Caring Bridge offered to people with physical illness. When I made the decision to quit drinking, it had escalated out of control. My 1 glass of wine a night had turned into 2, then 3, and then a bottle. I hit what most would call a high bottom. I was fortunate not to have gotten a DUI or lost a job, but I was certainly headed in that direction. It's stark, really, to look back and compare the two experiences, mine and my friends with the brain tumor, and see how differently people are conditioned to respond to each. Why is recovering from substance use disorder, or mental illness for that matter, treated so differently than recovering from a chronic illness, disease, or injury? One possible explanation is blame. When someone shares that they've been diagnosed with cancer, for example, a person's first reaction usually is empathy and compassion. When we learn about someone struggling with substance abuse, or even struggling with depression, we assume that the individual is responsible for their own suffering. One might even think, I'm able to have a glass of wine a day and not become addicted. Or I get down sometimes too, but I never let myself get depressed. We cast blame on to the person. What was missing from my early recovery was compassionate connection, some kind of bridge to others. While I knew I could reach out to recovery communities at the time, I didn't feel like I could reach out to most of my friends, family, or even church community. Substance use disorder and mental health disorders are serious illnesses and not someone's fault. These illnesses are killing people at alarming rates. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, 85,000 people died of alcohol-related deaths in 2018. 14.4 million adults ages 18 and older had alcohol use disorder that year, and only 8% of them received treatment. Deaths caused by overdoses, both by illicit drugs and prescription, reached over 67,000. According to the Centers for Disease Control, depression affects 20 to 25% of Americans aged 18 and older in a given year, and only half of those having a depressive episode seek treatment. Suicide takes the lives of over 44,000 Americans every year, and for every completed suicide, there are an estimated 25 attempts. These are difficult statistics. While substance use and mental health disorders rival chronic illness for leading causes of death in this country, a large number of people suffer in silence. Many experience depression, or abusing drugs may not appear sick or even to need help. In my experience, it was difficult for my loved ones to believe that I had a problem, even when I told them. Death may not seem like it's looming, but a person is just as likely to die from an overdose or by suicide as they are from diabetes. So why are these individuals so often left to combat these illnesses alone, or at the very least on the edges of our lives? I believe that one of the answers to that question is stigma. The stigma that the person experiencing addiction or depression feels, and the stigma our society places on individuals who struggle with substance use and mental health. I would like to gently ask you to consider the following questions. What keeps you from reaching out to someone who you know is struggling with mental illness? What are your judgments about people who are struggling with addiction? What would it take to move you through those barriers and extend a bridge of caring? In his 2018 TED Talk titled "Everything You Know About Addiction is Wrong," Johann Hari states that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. In his TED Talk, he shares an interesting experiment conducted by a professor of psychology in Vancouver that helped explain addiction to him in a new way. The experiment is known as Rat Park. Hari tells us, Professor Alexander explained to me the idea of addiction we've all got in our heads. That story comes partly from a series of experiments that were done early in the 20th century. They're really simple. You get a rat and you put it in a cage and you give it 2 water bottles. One is just the water and the other water is laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drug water and almost always kill itself quite quickly. So there you go, right? That's how we think it works. In the 1970s, Professor Alexander comes along and he looks at this experiment and he noticed something. He said, we're putting the rat in an empty cage. It's got nothing to do except use these drugs. Let's try something different. So Professor Alexander built a cage that he called Rat Park, which is basically heaven for rats. They've got loads of cheese, loads of colored balls, they got loads of tunnels. Crucially, they've got loads of friends. And they've got both the water bottles, the normal water and the drug water. But here's the fascinating thing. In Rat Park, they don't like the drug water. They almost never use it. None of them ever use it compulsively. None of them overdose. You go from almost 100% overdose when they're isolated to 0% overdose when they have happy and connected lives. I want to repeat that last part again. 0% overdose when they have happy and connected lives. In the Rat Park, connection actually prevented addiction in the first place. The drugs weren't appealing. Maybe Maybe connection is also the piece that could help people who are addicted from seeking comfort in a substance. It's not that simple, but it is a foundational piece for recovery. In the realm of the hungry ghosts, addiction specialist and author Gabor Mate explains in his book, addiction is not a choice that anybody makes. It's not a moral failure. It's not an ethical lapse. It's not a weakness of character or a failure of will, which is how our society depicts addiction. Nor is it an inherited brain disease, which is how our medical tendency is to see it. What it actually is a response to human suffering. He suggests that the question we should be asking when an individual is suffering with addiction is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. Mate believes that people who abuse substances are seeking connection, a sense of belonging, and to numb pain. Asking what happened to you shifts your view from blame to compassion and creates an opening for connection, because we all can relate to having experienced suffering on some level in our lives. A woman who has made a significant impact on my recovery, Holly Whitaker, founder of The Tempest, which is an online recovery program, explains the importance of connection in her book, Quit Like a Woman. She writes, "Hear me on this. You need people. We humans are biologically designed to connect with one another, and from the moment we are born into this world, our development as humans emotionally, intellectually, physically, spiritually, is contingent on how we connect. Everywhere I have looked for answers about what led me to become addicted, I have found the same answer, a longing to connect and belong." While researching the power of connection and recovery, I discovered Johann Hari's name again in reference to the treatment of depression. In an article published in The Guardian, he writes, "If you are depressed and anxious, you are not a machine with malfunctioning parts. You are a human being with unmet needs. The only real way out of our epidemic of despair is for all of us together to begin to meet those needs for deep connection." While many people with depression respond to medication and one-on-one therapy, they also need additional human contact. Often depression is triggered by an event or series of life events that slowly drain a person's vitality. Parker Palmer, who has written extensively about his dark bouts with depression, shared the following story with Krista Tippett in an On Being episode. Palmer tells us, "I had folks coming to me, of course, who wanted to be helpful, and sadly, many of them weren't. These were the people who would say, 'Gosh, Parker, why are you sitting in here being depressed? It's a beautiful day outside. Go feel the sunshine and smell the flowers.' And that, of course, leaves a depressed person even more depressed, because while you know intellectually that it's sunny out and that the flowers are lovely and fragrant, you can't really feel any of that in your body, which is dead in a sensory way. And so you're left more depressed by this good advice to get out and enjoy the day. Then other people would come and say something along the lines of, 'Gosh, Parker, why are you depressed? You're such a good person. You've helped so many people.' And that would leave me feeling more depressed, because I would feel I've just defrauded another person who, if they really knew what a schmuck I was, would cast me into the darkness where I already am." There was this one friend who came to me, after asking permission to do so every afternoon about 4, sat me down in a chair in the living room, took off my socks and shoes, and massaged my feet. He hardly ever said anything. From time to time, he would say a very brief word like, "I can feel your struggle today," or, "I feel that you're a little stronger at this moment, and I'm glad for that." But beyond that, he would say hardly anything. He would give no advice. He would simply report from time to time what he was intuiting about my condition. Somehow, he found the one place in my body, the soles of my feet, where I could experience some sort of connection to another human being. And that act of massaging my feet, in a way that I really don't have words for, kept me connected with the human race. What he mainly did for me, of course, was to be willing to be present in my suffering. He just hung in with me in this very quiet, very simple, very tactile way. And it became for me a metaphor of the kind of community we need to extend to people who are suffering in this way, which is a community that is neither invasive of the mystery nor evasive of the suffering, but is willing to hold people in a space, a sacred space of relationship, where somehow this person who is on the dark side of the moon can get a little confidence that they come around to the other side. Parker Palmer saw hope for the future, a light in the darkness, by interacting with one person who was present to his suffering, the touch and compassionate presence of one person. The power of connection, especially the power of connection in groups, cannot be overstated. Groups, in whatever form they take, can be a powerful place to heal. While my recovery did not take the more traditional path of a 12-step program, connection was not only an anchor in my recovery, but the bud of a blossoming way of seeing myself and the role my drinking had played in my life. I drank for the reasons that people do: to be social, to fit in, to have fun, to feel outgoing, more funny, it tasted good. You get the picture. I was afraid to quit, partly because of the stigma and the labels, but mostly because I didn't know how I would find belonging without it. Through creating connections in small groups here at First Church and in my online recovery group, I was able to develop a new understanding of what it meant to belong. As I settled into sobriety, I shed the parts of myself that no longer served me and friends who no longer supported me. I began to realize that I didn't need alcohol to fit in. I also began to see that fitting in is a lot of work, and that being around people who accept me as I am is what belonging is really all about. I have made some of the deepest connections of my lifetime in these groups while completely sober. I think it's safe to say that many people in recovery from substance use maintain their sobriety primarily by being connected to groups with whom they can share their feelings and experiences. For many, this means attending groups like AA, NA, Smart Recovery, Women for Sobriety, or a number of other online platforms, including the Tempest community. So how can we, here at First Church, extend a bridge of caring to our fellow church members that is neither invasive of the mystery nor evasive of the suffering? How can we find a way to comfort and connect with someone in the complicated space of need and shame? Let's first look at the materials that our bridge is made of, then consider how we might extend it beyond where it currently leads. First Church has pastoral care associates who are trained listeners and provide a confidential space to share difficult experiences. They're not a substitute for therapy or recovery, but they can be a first step in asking for help. There are small group ministries such as theme circles and geography of grace that provide a space for deep spiritual reflection and connection. There are affinity groups such as Swans, the parenting group, social justice groups, and the church choir. We've built a sturdy bridge of connection here at First Church. We can extend that bridge of caring by moving out of our comfort zones and asking something beyond "how are you?" Or maybe following "how are you?" with "what do you need?" or "how can I be present to your suffering?" Creating a meal train may not be appropriate when you know someone is in the depths of depression, but perhaps just offering to share a cup of tea would give that person comfort. Try to take a moment, especially during this time of global pandemic and isolation, to check on people who you think are vulnerable. Offer to lend a non-judgmental ear. Send a note. Make a casserole. The bridge of connection leads two ways, and for that bridge to carry all that we are holding, we need trust on the one side and vulnerability on the other. It's not always easy, but when trust and vulnerability meet, that is when true connection and belonging can happen. We have all the tools we need to extend this bridge of caring. I've experienced it. I know with all my soul and at the depth of my spirit that the caring bridge extended to me that saved my life and continues to save my life is the connection I found at this church, in my recovery community, and with my family. And I have deep, deep gratitude for that. if you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or substance use, please refer to the YouTube chat for additional resources.
Good morning. My name is Dale Skaggs, and I invite you now to join in a spirit of generosity. We know this coronavirus pandemic is affecting our members in many different ways, but for those of us who can give right now, it is more important than ever to share our resources with people who have been harder hit by the pandemic. Our church supports members and friends of our congregation spiritually, emotionally, and materially, and supports people in Milwaukee through our relationships with our community partners. Your pledges are the foundation of our congregation and the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, we are grateful for non-pledge gifts from folks who appreciate our online ministry and are benefiting from it. We also have a special fund for people who need financial support called the Minister's Discretionary Fund. You can give to the church by texting 73256 with the message "Give to UU $." That's the word give, the number 2, UU $. Follow the prompts and choose pledge payment, non-pledge gift, or minister's discretionary. You can also give to First Church by going to our web-based giving link. That's at onrealm.org/FUSM/give/First You can see both these options on your screen. We also encourage you to give directly to our community partners. You can find a list of their needs on our website at uumilwaukee.org/support-Milwaukeeans-COVID-19, which you can see on your screen. This summer, we are highlighting the work of the Bread of Healing Clinic, a neighborhood-based clinic on Milwaukee's north side for individuals with financial or other barriers to quality health care, including medical, dental, vision, and behavioral health care. The clinic serves people of 52 different languages and is committed to achieving health, not simply eliminating sickness. Now more than ever, we know that health is an issue of social justice, a right that belongs to all people, not just a commodity to be delivered on the basis of finances. A link for direct contributions to the clinic should be on your screen. All of your offerings to our community partners and to First Church will be gratefully received. And now, as always, but especially at this time when our interdependence is so evident, thank you for your generosity.
Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Mama and Papa are fighting like snakes. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Baby is crying like her heart will break. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Neighbor, lock the doors, build fences so high. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Don't see what's discovered on the other side. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. This big old world is a great big mess. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, find peace and rest. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, children. Open the window now. window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in.
The closing reading is adapted from Erica Hewitt. While you're listening, I would like to invite you to close your eyes and imagine you were in the pews of our beloved sanctuary. Now, reach out to hold the hands of the people next to you. If you have a real hand to hold, feel free to do that. The hand in yours belongs to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill with tears, and whose laughter is a beautiful sound. The hand you hold belongs to a person who is seeking wholeness and trusts that you're doing the same. As you leave this service today, may your heart remain open, may your voices stay strong, and may your hands remain outstretched.